This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good evening, welcome to this evening's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. I am Kevin Smith. Now let's get to the news in detail. The Oil and Gas Governance Network awaits the publication of oil reports dating back to the beginning of oil production. Vice President Dr. Kaieteur Radio had committed during a February 9th press conference that the government would make the reports available to the press. 3 weeks later, the press does not have access to these reports, and we have been given the royal runaround in its attempts to access them. Dr. Jagdeo had encouraged reporters to request the documents, but the network noted a recent Kaieteur News report which pointed to the law of requiring the publication of its crudes. And moving on, the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, an independent American agency designed to protect investors and the national banking system, has blocked an application by ExxonMobil to prevent its shareholders from voting on resolutions related to climate change. ExxonMobil's petition came on the heels of a motion from BNP Paribas Asset Management that urged the oil giant to report if and how its activities aligned with global efforts to fight global warming. BNP, a French group that offers its clients a range of financial services, had said that there is not enough information available to assess how Exxon ensures that its lobbying activities, directly and indirectly through trade associations, align with the objectives of the Paris Climate Accord, which seeks to bring global temperatures to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And moving on, following independent research, Kaieteur News exposed on Sunday that the targets being proposed by the Natural Resources Ministry in the draft local content policy were not informed by a gap analysis. Instead, most of the targets, including an incorrectly spelt category of work, were plagiarized from Ghana's local content regulations. In a missive to the press, the ministry sought to defend the plagiarism of targets that were crafted for an African country with 30.42 million people. The ministry said it is essential for one to be aware that the upstream oil and gas sector has a particular language that mirrors certain standardized characteristics and predefined rules that are common across the industry worldwide. Even if this is the case, the ministry still failed to say why it copied categories of work or services to be supplied to the oil industry in the exact order as listed in Ghana's regulations, along the exact target numbers for startup and even spelling errors. And on that note, let's tell you that the taxi driver who is accused of raping, sodomizing, and battering a Venezuelan woman was previously charged for raping 3 sex workers. The man, 36-year-old Thurston Semple of Tuckville Terrace, Georgetown, was yesterday morning arrested and is presently in police custody in relation to allegations leveled by the Venezuelan woman. According to residents, they are afraid of Semple since he always manages to get bail. According to reports, in 2018, Semple appeared in court for allegedly tying up 2 sex workers on separate occasions and having sex with them. The Chief Magistrate McLennan had granted Semple bail in a sum of $400,000. Additionally, a few minutes before that incident, Semple was charged for escaping from lawful custody. Also, we were told that he sexually assaulted a young relative who died shortly after. And moving on, days after news broke about the passing of a newborn baby girl and her mother at the New Amsterdam Hospital, the Ministry of Health had launched an investigation. Relatives have lambasted medical professionals stationed at the hospital's administration, and even health services in general, Region 6. They believed that what took place was a clear act of negligence and incompetence on the part of the doctors and nurses who attended to Vanessa Lewis Ahadio and her stillborn baby. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony stated that the investigation has been completed and he is awaiting the recommendations. The minister said, based on those recommendations, action will be taken against those culpable. In other news, according to Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal, the government will be retaining the services of an international consultant to draft a collection of legislation for the emerging oil and gas sector. He made this announcement when he laid out the PPPC government's legislative agenda yesterday. He indicated that the legislation would regulate the new and emerging sectors, while at the same time revamping archaic legislations to complete a new and modern legal framework for Guyana. Furthermore, he said that every area of economic activity would be targeted for legal reforms. And finally, let's tell you 31 new COVID cases were recorded today, according to a release from the Ministry of Health. The cases were confirmed in wake of another fatality from the disease and over 8,000 cases of recoveries. According to the ministry, of the new cases, 18 were recorded in Region 4, 9 in Region 3, 1 new case each were found in Regions 5 and 7, and 2 new cases were from Region 9. Earlier in the day, the Health Ministry had announced the country's 198th COVID-19 death. And that brings us to the end of this evening's newscast. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening. Coming up next is the National Outlook with GHK Lal.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your